Well, the next thing a lot of you emailed me about is, Randy, we see you hiking, you're doing all this active, I guess, hunting, if you want to call it that. Some guys are way more active than I am, but our normal day is leave the truck early in the morning, climb up to a glassing spot, especially in these late season hunts that we do for elk. And guys are like, when I get up there, I'm freezing to death. Within a half hour of stopping, I'm just ready to die. And part of that gets down to just a common sense layering system. When I leave the truck, I want to feel a little chilled, because by the time I get 15 minutes into my hike, I'm probably going to be sweating. So usually what you'll see me wearing is just a base layer of good merino wool and maybe a vest. And all my other stuff is in my pack. And then when I get up there, I either have a dry set or I just let the evaporation leave me. An evaporating surface loses heat 5 times faster than a dry surface. So I want to get dried off as quick as possible once I get up to my spotting location. And once I do that, I'll probably layer up maybe with a puffy coat, maybe layer up with one base layer over the top of my merino wool. I'm partial, when I'm doing a lot of glassing, I'm partial to a hood. When the wind's blowing, you get a hood like that and it just keeps a lot more of the heat into your body. This one here is a Jetstream jacket by Sitka. I use this. This is like my uniform. Reason being is it's got a windstopper lining. As the name implies, windstopper is very good at stopping wind. And it also has a very high rate of moisture wicking, which if you're like me, you want to get that moisture off you as fast as possible. And this jacket does just that. So once I get up there, it's usually windy, it's usually cold. Let's say it's November, it's in Wyoming, it's 10 degrees and the wind's blowing 10 or 15 miles an hour. There's some other things I'm gonna do that's gonna keep me warm. I have different layers of hand protection. What you see here, this is just a really thin layer that sometimes when I'm moving and I know I'm gonna be warm, I might just go with this. And then here's a great Gore-Tex mitten or glove. And I'm usually not a fan of gloves, but these ones are super warm and they go up and they cover your wrist. Most of your heat loss, when your blood's coming down your arm, right here in your wrist area is where that blood flow gets closest to the surface. If you can keep that area covered, you're gonna stay warmer. The reason that I'm a bigger fan of mittens in super cold weather than I am gloves is that as your fingers are spread apart in a glove, you have way more surface area. If you got them together in a mitten, you have way less surface area. Heat loss happens because of the amount of surface area exposed to the air. The beauty of a good Gore-Tex glove is it wicks the moisture out. If you're really active and this gets wet, remember again, a wet item gets colder way faster than a dry item. I want that moisture out of there. If you want to keep warm hands once you stop, here you go. These little things. You can get them in the 7-hour, the 12-hour, you can get them in jumbos, whatever. I use these by the hundreds. We also use them to keep camera batteries warm. We use them for all kinds of things. But sometimes I'll put them in a glove like this, and they'll be right here on my palm or they'll be back here. The other thing, so many of you see me using this, and the emails I get, I know are not people from the Midwest, because these are standard issue if you grew up as a kid in the Midwest. Before you got your first Red Ryder Daisy BB gun, you got a pair of chopper mitts. I've got some emails before where someone said, why do you wear baking mitts when you're out hunting? And they're not. What they are is they're a leather outside and a rag wool liner inside. I usually put one of these inside the mitten. It just makes it that much warmer. The other thing I do is I bring an extra pair of rag wool liners just like this. I mean, as you can see, they're different colors, but this one gets damp because I've been sweating. I put a new rag wool liner in there, a dry one. Put this one over there to dry out, and I'm in business. If you get cold hands, all of a sudden you're starting to get cold. And same with your feet. Your extremities get cold first. it quickly gets uncomfortable. So do what you can to keep your extremities warm. And I think if you just do a couple little things, you're going to find that it makes a really big difference. Some hunts you've seen us on, it's been super, super cold. This little skull cap, it's made out of merino wool. A lot of times I'll just have that underneath my baseball cap because it's just that cold. And then if the wind's really chucking and it's really cold, I call it full flaps. And yeah, might look like Elmer Fudd, but if you want to stay warm, this will do it for you. Something like this is just well worth the weight of carrying it. The fur here creates a little bit of a kind of a barrier, or I guess a micro, if you want to call it that, area of warmth. The point of all that is, if you're going to hunt late season elk, the odds are you're going to be up on a rock glassing somewhere, and it's going to take you some effort to get there. And the effort to get there is going to cause you to probably sweat. And you don't want to get up there and not have some way to stay warm after that. Other question a lot of you have asked me is, Randy, do you start a fire out in the woods? You darn right I do. People are like, how do you dare start a fire? Aren't the elk going to smell it? I don't know, maybe they smell it. But, you know, there's 10,000 acre forest fire down here not too far. I'm going to be hunting near there. I don't think my little fire to stay warm is going to do anything to scare an elk that just lived in the midst of a 10,000 acre forest fire. The point of that is, a fire keeps you warm. Gives you something to do, kind of breaks up the monotony. You can go over and glass for 5-10 minutes, come back to the fire, warm up for 2 or 3 minutes, go over here, glass. It's a technique that we use because that late season elk hunting is probably some of the best elk hunting out there. But if you can't stay warm, you can't be effective because you'll have to go back to your camp or back to your truck. And these are some things we do to keep ourselves warm. I think if you do it, you'll probably find a few of these tricks may be helpful in staying out there longer.